right, welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast.
Welcome.
We have been a little more structured over the last couple months, and we took, I think, a really intense stab at trying to make sure that Matthew and kind of our Sunday, what do we call it? Our
Sunday
study hall was kind of a fun thing to kind of dive into.
Had like 16 or 18 or 19 episodes.
It was good.
Yeah, so good.
But today, we're going to do something a little more fun, a little more laid back. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So
I know I'm going to enjoy it. Especially with this Kingsway iced coffee, which is a not so subtle plug. If you're just listening right now, I'm drinking out of a ceramic mug with a tall glass inside of it with iced coffee and a straw.
It's very on brand.
This is a subtle plug to, hey, if you're a high schooler or know a high school student and they want to be in a Bible study that is pretty in-depth, Sunday nights, at least right now. If you're listening to this 5 years in the future, that may not be true.
2023, fall 2023.
Yep. If you're listening to it then we have a Sunday night Bible study, 5:30, 6:30. Me and Sharon make some craft coffee, and then you study the Bible while buzzed on caffeine. The way God intended.
It sounds very hip.
Oh, it is. I twirl my mustache the whole time.
Yeah. That's the hipster thing.
It's not a slam poetry. Don't have little berets and snapping after everything.
One of the things that I constantly check in, especially with Ryan, I feel like he's introduced me to some new music and artists from time to time, and I feel like I'm always like a little late to the party, like not quite the like dad moment where you like show up and you're like, hey, I found this new guy, and it's like, no, he's been like,
I found this new blues musician. His name's John Mayer. And you're like,
well, yeah, he was cool like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do feel like at times right now I stumble across people or I just run into music that I really enjoy, and I love just sharing that. And I think it's kind of a fun way because music is definitely something that to some people it really matters and they really enjoy it and they lean into it. Some people music is like take it or leave it. Good song every now and then, a groove. It's got a little nostalgia to it or a little mood, like maybe it's a mood thing. Like, you know, you're late on a Friday night and you want to listen to something, or you're really excited, you want to listen to something, or you're really sad, you want to listen to something. But others, it's like a background thing. Like they just want a good thing in the background going.
I know for Sharon, when she does her good work doing graphic design for Ozark, she'll, like, if she's in the zone, this was the same with her for homework and everything else while we were in college. She'll put on Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack.
Yep.
She'll put on her favorite, one of her favorites is How to Train Your Dragon. Mm-hmm. She said that's sneakily one of the best, like, adventure soundtracks of all time.
Mine's Last of the Mohicans. So if I put that on, I am suddenly long-haired running through the woods, and I am focused. I'm very intense and focused. No, and I think that's what's beautiful about music is it really can transcend a lot of different things, age, gender, like even sometimes economic, emotional, like it can really connect people through all kinds of barriers and really, I think, bring to the top. And it also is just fun to share it and talk about it. So all we're going to do here for this episode, and this is a complete like kind of left turn from what we have been doing, is just talk about and kind of introduce you and invite you into some of the new things and what we're currently listening to, and potentially some new opportunities for you to check out some new music that, you know, not all of it's going to be completely Christian, but we're not trying to, we're not trying to turn you on a dojo or something. Like we're on a Doja Cat or something. Like we're just trying to.
I thought you were trying to say Mojo Dojo Casa House.
No,
I was like,
no.
We do want to turn you on to that album.
No.
I'm just kidding.
So one of the reasons why this was something that I was even introduced to or thinking about as a topic was because of an album that came out just a week ago. And it's something that, for me, I think I've found just beauty in it. And it is an album that, you know, the artist because of a single song. Like most of you, and you probably don't even know that that's the artist's name, if I'm being honest. Most people won't, but you'll know the song.
Yeah.
And so his name is Corey Asbury, and he wrote Reckless Love. And he's been on a journey. He would tell you this if you went and looked at some of his Instagram posts and some of his kind of updates. He's been on a journey. Him and his wife have had a couple kids. They've had some health things and just personal kind of battles through some seasons of suffering. And he wrote this new album called Pioneer. It came out on the 17th of September, 2023, if you're watching this at some other time. Yep. And the album is just raw and real and very vulnerable and incredibly insightful into how faith navigates and pioneers through difficult seasons. And multiple songs on the album are very, very poignant to, I think, lessons that I've even had to learn in the last 2 to 3 years. And I have found myself just listening to this album on repeat. And it is one that I have just constantly, and we're actually playing or attempting to try to play one of his songs.
I am attempting to play one of his songs.
Ryan's going to attempt to play his song Kind off the album that I think is an incredibly risky, very good, but very, very wholesome attempt to define God as kind.
Yeah.
And I find albums that are genuine. You can tell that the songs and stuff are not meant to be catchy. They're meant to communicate truth and honest feelings and lessons learned to be some of my favorite music. That's why Ben Rector stuff always seems to connect with me too, because it's so real. One of the reasons why when you introduced me to stuff not that long ago, I was like, yeah, I can get down with this. That's my first recommendation. Go check out his album Pioneer. It's got multiple songs on that. Everything Belongs. Is that your Be Real right there?
It is.
Oh,
I'm taking my second
awesome.
one. This is
so awesome. No, you're actually being real right now. That's so cool. We're so real. Be real. That's awesome.
Perfect.
So there's Everything Belongs, Kind, like I mentioned earlier. Only Jesus for My Pain is fantastic. These Are the Days, talking about the days of his children and being small. White Knuckle, which is trying to just take control of your life and realizing that doesn't work. And anyway, there's so many good songs on this album that I think that if you just turned it on and listened to the whole thing, you would really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
What have you been listening to, Ryan?
I have so many pieces of so many albums and whatever.
I know. Yeah.
But I don't want to pick one. There's another artist that in a more like folksy way, she has some worship stuff. Just like
Corey Asbury's new thing is country, so like it's wildly country.
Yeah.
So if you're like into country, you'll like that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you'll probably still like it, but it'll be a little harder.
You probably will. It's like Chris Stapleton. I'm not trying to compare him to Chris right now because Chris is so good. But it's like Chris Stapleton, where you don't have to like country to like Chris Stapleton.
Respect it.
You don't have to like Luke Bryan or whatever his name is. And he's just nasally and sings about to like Chris Stapleton because he's like raspy storyteller, whatever. It's more, I'd say it's more folk than country. It's got country arrangements and country like folksy acoustic Americana arrangements.
Oh yeah.
But it's folk in its content.
Oh, absolutely. And I would also say it's almost got like a country lullaby feel to it. Like a very folky.
I think Western is closer than country. Because when I think country, I think pop country.
Yeah.
And I get a little sick in my stomach.
No.
Sorry if that's your favorite genre. It's just not mine. I grew up in the city. I prefer city music, you know? I prefer Lil Wayne. I'm kidding. No, I don't.
Well, it's funny you say that because I listened to Earth, Wind, and Fire. I have a couple songs. And on the 17th is when his album came out. And I don't know if you've ever listened to September by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
But it starts out, do you remember the 17th of September? And so I'm like, I do. I remember.
Awesome.
So every year that song, I'm just like, hey, it's the 17th of September.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I think if I had to pick somebody, it's somebody kind of in the same lane as that album, not necessarily that artist. But it's a guy, I've mentioned him before on the podcast, but since then he's had a new album. Chris Renzema.
Okay.
He's a big storyteller songwriter, not just like worship song songwriter. And so he has this album called Manna Part 1, like manna from the desert. And the picture's just like a Simpsons pink and blue birthday cake just in the middle of the woods, I think. But it's just a real like the songs are a lot like what I've heard off of the album you were talking about from
Pioneer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're real thinky and reflecty and whatever. He has one called God and Prozac.
Ooh.
It's a little too close to home.
I like that. That's cool. That's a real title.
Yeah. It's the first verse is the better part of my 20s spent writing songs about God. on a Prozac prescription. Doesn't that seem odd? Because I believe in the gospel, a God who is good, but these chemicals don't always work like they should. Yeah. Oof. He's check out everything he has.
So
everything
say his name one more time.
Chris Renzema, Renzema.
Done.
Everything he has is good. He's a Christian, of course. You'll tell that pretty quickly from his music. But he's got a bunch of just life reflection songs. He has a whole album called Hope or Nostalgia that's super good. Yeah, I don't even. And then he has a bunch of like Bible character songs.
Yeah.
So he has one on Jacob, one on Moses called Caught in the Reeds. He has one on Mary and Joseph. He has one on, and they're all just like really good, like The Chosen, how good of storytelling they do about Jesus, how they flesh out the motives and the attitudes in the middle of the facts we know about him. That's what he does in his songs. He's just so good.
Well, that sounds great. A single song that I can recommend that I've been just stuck on. It's only been out for about a month and a half now. But I grew up with this band, Switchfoot. You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
If you grew up in the early 2000s, if you were in high school around that age, the early 2000s, they were just massive at that time. But they wrote a song, Meant to Live.
Yeah.
And just recently, an artist by the name of John Bellion, which he produces a ton of different music for very popular artists and has Christian beliefs, and not all of his music reflects those, and an incredibly talented producer of music in the sense of like creating beats and rhythm and like being really creative. He recently basically kind of pledged his love to Switchfoot and John Foreman and got permission to remake Meant to Live. And it is amazing. It is such a cool, and I really hope that you would go and watch the music video on YouTube. It's just a cool story of forgiveness and kind of wholeness and hope. And it just, his version of the song just brings, it's nostalgia. It's everything I love. It's this deep, and the song itself has always held deep meaning to me. It's like, we're meant to live for something more. Have we lost ourselves? Like, we're living for something while waiting for something deep inside. And like, there's just this deep longing in all of us of what does our life mean? And the song is just a beautiful thing. But then John Bellion coming in and just doing his own version, and you can tell it had deep impact on him, and he's paying homage, but then putting his fingerprints on it. Such a beautiful song. Such a beautiful song.
I love Switchfoot. I think they have so much great stuff. They have so many great singles that a lot of people would recognize. Yeah. And then they have a bunch of great stuff in between those singles. Like, they aren't just a single and album kind of band and everything else is trash. They're great. My youth pastor growing up went to one of their first concerts when they were like just starting to get big. And he bought a poster at the concert, but the venue didn't know them. They weren't big enough to be known yet. So they thought their name was Switch Food.
Oh my God.
And so John Foreman on my youth minister's poster crossed out the T on Switchfoot and wrote a D for Switch Food and then signed it. And it's so good.
That is amazing.
Yeah, Switchfoot is awesome. I think they have an entire album of stuff it's all other people's covers of their songs.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
That might be on that album.
All I know is I watched it on YouTube because it came across because I follow John Bellion, and it was one of those like sneaky good oh my gosh.
I think the Jonas Brothers. I want to look this up without losing where I was on Spotify, but it has the John Bellion thing up front. Okay, I'm gonna have to just lose where I'm at in Spotify. But I'll tell you on the way there. We'll loop back around to if that album exists. There's a guy who is a friend of Switchfoot, who's an artist that we just found out about, me and my wife, past couple months, named, this is so hard to say, but that's going to be every person I name, Tyson Motzenbacher.
Okay.
Motzenbacher, you know?
Yeah.
Just
of course.
It's spelled how you say it.
No, that can't be true.
He's such a good songwriter. Like the rest of the people, we're naming people in a lot of the same veins.
Oh yeah.
Just like such a good storyteller, songwriter. He has this like semi-sarcastic parody song about how church ministry goes and Sunday mornings and church services and whatever. Because he was told for a while in California when he was growing up that like worship ministry is the fulfilling call of every musician who's a Christian. Yeah. Like that was the 90s, 2000s push. And so just listen to these these lyrics.
Okay.
It's called Sunday Morning. I chose all the right songs, played all the right chords, till the kids who weren't singing praised the Lord. And the pastor yelled about faith and hell, and I soundtracked his words for effect, while everyone cried and cried and cried, and everyone cried and cried and cried. And then we played kickball.
Nah. that is
and it's
awesome.
like just goes on and on about like how awkward produced church ministry can be and whatever. That's coming from me and Trevor.
Yep.
Agreeing with that, who have been trained to produce church ministry. We do more than that. But there's some churches and some people and some faith groups that rely on that. And they're like, this is how we know we're making Christians, is that we check off all the boxes of all the programming we feel like we're supposed to do.
Yep.
Rather than like relationships between those and that go outside of a Sunday morning service and whatever. But this guy has so much more to offer than just that. He has a new album called Milk Teeth. Don't ask me to tell you why it's named that. I couldn't. But anyway, between that and some other stuff, it's just so good. He was a Christian, and then like this song and some other ones are off of him kind of losing his faith for like 5 or 8 years in the middle of it, and then slowly coming back around to it, re-grasping the good parts of it.
Yeah.
And so there's some stuff in there from when he wasn't a Christian, stuff from when his mom died from cancer. And he has a song about that somewhere in his albums. And so he's just a good guy with a lot of depth and a lot of like, I don't know. He's just got a story to tell in all his songs and all his albums.
I recently, we talked about this a little bit, but like, anxiety and gratitude can't coexist. Like that's just an impossibility in the brain. They learned this, I think it was like less than a year ago in some neurological study that like those two pieces of the brain or one single part of the brain produces both of those feelings and emotions. And so only one can exist at this. It's like, it's literally physically impossible.
Yeah.
And so I've been listening to Brandon Lake's song, Gratitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like on repeat. Like it's one of those songs that like, it almost has become like a trainer of like helping my brain lean into gratitude rather than lean into the things that I can't control. So I don't know if Brandon, I'm not new to the party on that one. I'm definitely like old to the party on that one, but it's been the one that I've like come back to. I'd heard it a lot. I think I'd even heard it from you the first time, but it is such a good song as a centerpiece of like, either starting your day or like if you start to feel a certain way.
It's a good
like,
centering song.
Yes, it's such a good song in that way. And so I don't know, I highly recommend, some of that if somebody was like, hey man, like that this is a great worship song that if you needed to try something or if you needed to get back on, this would be one of those songs that I'd be like, boom, go for it. So I have one other album that I want to recommend, but I'm going to put like my adult like quotations up of like, I follow an artist on YouTube and on Instagram called YX. And he's just a young Christian-ish guy. And I say ish because he too has kind of gone through some deconstruction and then reconstruction of his faith. And he's trying to figure out and navigate it. And then his dad died. And he really went through some really tricky stuff. And his music is just so heartfelt and it's so real. And some of the lyrics are really good. But he does use some language in his stuff. And so if you're sensitive to that or if that's music that you're a little bit like, I wouldn't want to put that in my life, totally get that. But I find that sometimes the emotion and the words and what the context are, it fits in his music. I never feel like it doesn't fit. He released an album called Something Like Oak, and the music and just the way it goes, there's just such good stuff. And there's just this awesome trickling of God through the whole thing in just like some very subtle ways, but you can tell it's very, very real.
Yeah.
And so I like giving you like kind of little, this would be what I would be like on the fringes of being like, this isn't something I would make like a staple of like everything that I listen to, but it's definitely been somebody at times that I feel like has reflected some things that I feel. And like, I like music to meet me where I'm at. sometimes, and I like music sometimes to elevate me, like gratitude. Yeah. But I also like people like Corey at the beginning that kind of help me or help me process things, and I feel like help me move me forward. I feel like this artist kind of just sometimes is just where I am, like when I listen to some of his stuff. And so I think in some ways that's why I really enjoy it. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not something I listen to with my kids or, around certain, younger people, but it's definitely something privately and in my own like workouts or like when I'm working on stuff, it definitely has been good. And I've kind of, because I think I've watched his journey on Instagram and I've watched kind of the things he's gone through and like the parts that he shares and some of the things, even the live chats that he's done on Instagram. It's the album comes from a really real place. So it's pretty cool. He's not signed by any company at this point too. So it's just him, computer doing his thing. And I really enjoy that.
I love that.
So.
Swinging back to earlier, Switchfoot.
Yeah.
I was right. They have a whole album called The Beautiful Letdown, parentheses our version, kind of playing off Taylor Swift. I assume. But here's what they got. Meant to Live, John Bellion. This Is Your Life, Noah Gunderson. Don't know who that is.
Okay.
More Than Fine, Monica Martin. Don't know who that is. Ammunition by Reliant K.
What?
Dare You to Move, Ryan Tedder from One Republic.
Uh-huh.
Redemption, Colony House. The Beautiful Letdown, Jonas Brothers.
Dang.
Gone, Owl City. On Fire,
I will be listening
Ingrid
to this
Andress.
literally as soon as we get done with this podcast.
Here's one, 24 by 21 Pilots.
Oh my gosh.
And then a bunch of their versions
loves
with nobody else. Yeah, everyone loves Switchfoot.
Let's go, dude. That's so exciting.
There's a couple others by artists that people may not know. How long ago did that
album come out?
It says this year, so I feel like past couple months. I heard something about it. I just never.
I heard the John Bellion thing because of his YouTube channel, but that was it. I didn't realize it was a whole album. That is wild.
Okay.
I'm excited we did this podcast just for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
There's one more artist I want to name, and I feel like I've named it before. If you've been around the I don't like Christian radio, but I love Christian music scene, then you probably know about him.
Yeah.
But I bring him up for the same reasons we brought everybody else up. They're good, they're thinky, they're reflective. But unlike most everybody we've mentioned, they're not folky Americana, even halfway. These guys are bumping. But it's King's Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
I bring them up because Sharon and I, when we found out about Tyson Motzenbacher, it's because he was opening for Kings and we went to see a Kings show. And they have a new album called, it might just be self-titled. Yeah, a new album called King's Kaleidoscope. This is like their 10th or something album in 10 years. They've been putting out stuff left and right. But it's got a bunch of good stuff. It's got a song with a bass line that you should test your car stereo to or anything like that called Radiant Reason. A lot of stuff about joy and zeal for the Lord and like whatever. But all of that is after an album called Beyond Control in 2016. Is that the one with the... Yep. Okay. Beyond Control is where they got in trouble by some Christian community people, festival producers, for dropping the F-bomb in one of their songs. And I remember people were like, what? How can you do this? Whatever. We thought you were Christians. Well, yeah, they are. So Beyond Control is a year or two or three after the church that they formed at literally blew up. It was Mars Hill with Mark Driscoll. So that's a few years after that. On top of that, it isn't even about that. That's just in the wake of that. My guy, Chad Gardner, who's the front runner or whatever of the band, and writes songs and produces whatever. He's like the face of it. He's a songwriter. They have a son, and they name him Zeal because of their zeal for the Lord, whatever. And I'm pretty sure this is right. I might be a little wrong on this. I hope I'm right. But they have a son, they name him Zeal, and I'm pretty sure he dies within the first 6 months of his life.
Oh, man.
And so this is like dealing with not just the death of a less than 1 year old kid of their own, but also dealing with the anxiety and the fear and the things that brings up. Not just like postpartum chemicals, whatever, but like
real.
This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Life trauma. And so where they dropped the F-bomb, and he even talked to his pastor about this, and his pastor was like, that's what's really going on in your life. Put in the song. But then he gets in trouble for it because some Christians are like, no curse words ever. There's never a time for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the time for it. If there's ever a time, stub your toe is debatable, but
no,
losing a young son. So the verse that it drops in is a repeated verse. The words are, "As I wait inside the silence, where the fear is effing violent." And
wow,
they released a clean version just because so many people were upset at it, and they just say "vicious violent." But like, it's a really cool. It's got a cool dip of like more and more stress and anxiety built up in the tension of the music, and then silence for like 5 or 10 seconds. It feels uncomfortably long. And then like a return Jesus-y, hopeful, like spring back up. When they did that song live, they waited 30, 45 seconds. And it was, you could hear a pin drop in those rooms. It's videos of it where they wait near a minute of just silence and no motion, and then come back in slowly. And it's just really good. And so you can watch through the course of their albums, some churchy ones at the beginning because they were a part of a church and they were a worship ministry. And then some like getting out of that albums. And then this one, which has like dealing with our lack of control over the world and how stuff just happens and we can't make it stop or make it go. And then learning to overcome some of that and the zeal he still has for the Lord and whatever. That's the like
ebbs and flow of their artists.
So even they had this last thing I'm going to say, because I've taken up a lot of time talking about this, but they had a song called Sticks and Stones, I think, that was their Chad's like song dealing with the fallout from Mars Hill. And it got used as the soundtrack, the like theme song for the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill podcast, detailing the
rise and fall of the church.
Rise and fall of the church that he was at. And they finished the whole podcast and then got to like an epilogue episode where they interviewed Chad. And he was like, "Can you stop using my song?" Because they use it as the intro and they shuffle in all these breaks in the lyrics. Mark Driscoll yelling certain things. And he was having people yell Mark Driscoll lines at him in his shows and was like, "I don't want this song to be associated with that guy. I want it to be associated with our experience."
Yeah.
At that church. So then they changed they went back and changed the song everywhere the podcast was put out. So
wow,
it's a really cool backstory behind all their music. And their music is a lot more electronic, full band, orchestrated, strings, brass, bells, chimes, everything. So and they got some like bump and hip hop stuff. It's great. But less Americana.
Yeah, and like to like the YX, the album I mentioned by that artist, something like Oak. It's very like it's a lot more poppy and I would say electronic too. To kind of end this whole thing, I've lost song that I want to mention is it's actually a song that I heard over a year ago. That's just one that I run back to every now and that I think people could genuinely enjoy. It's a little bit more of like a searching song, a chill song, but you saying all that stuff about it. It's a song that Ben Rector wrote with Cody Fry, Sailboat.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs.
The orchestral one?
The orchestral one where they do like a full orchestra. Cody Fry's dad was like an incredibly talented producer and writer of music, like full orchestra music. So he grew up in like a household that his dad, like I think was a composer, is like the title that he had. So he loves writing that. And then Ben Rector, of course, is a great songwriter in his own. And so they partnered for this song, and it is, if you go and look at it on YouTube or you find it on Spotify or YouTube Music or whatever you listen to, just make sure you look for the full orchestra version. But it is such a good song about feeling out of control and feeling like you're in the wind and you're just waiting for God to show up. And it's really, really good. Cody Fry's a great artist. Of course, we've mentioned Ben before, but both of those guys are incredible.
I'm going to make a playlist of all of these songs and artists, possibly excluding some of the explicit ones, and maybe putting in clean ones where it's
where it's possible. Version. And I think too, just mention it, but yeah, we'll do our best to put links out there and let you look and find. And again, we'd love to hear from you. Which ones did we miss, or what are the people that you're listening to? What are
who should we be? Who should?
Yeah. I'd love to find some new people because I already just found one album that I don't know about that I'm excited about. But
Switch food.
I know there's music out there that is moving and effective and amazing, and like I said, can transcend all kinds of things and also enlighten, bring joy, hope, feel like you're seen and heard. it can be uplifting and good. So it's always something weird. Yeah.
If you would like any of our stickers that say Kingsway Christian Church or our Kingsway podcast stickers, let us know.
Yeah.
We might ship them to you. Yeah. We might not if it's like Antarctica or something.
We'd make it work. We can make it work.
We'll figure it out. Or if you live around here, just
you stop by. We'd love to give you
some. Stop by. They're at the front desk. Or if you know me, Zach Harder, then just ask for one.
As always, leave a comment. Let us know if you like the video and you want to see more like it. Leave a review if you think this is helpful. Share it with a friend if you think they'd like it. And until next time, have a great and glorious day in the Lord. And we'll see you later.
See ya.